The story began at a party for scientists. A man named Seth was a not-so-famous scientist. He was talking to a reporter named Ronnie. Seth cryptically told Ronnie that he was working on something that would change the world and human life as we know it. His pitch worked, and Ronnie's curiosity was piqued. She agreed to go with him to his home and lab, which were housed in an old warehouse. Inside the lab, Ronnie was stunned by what she saw. Two large, sleek metal pods that looked like futuristic phone booths. Seth revealed his invention, the telepods. Then Seth asked if he could borrow a personal item from Ronnie, like a piece of clothing or jewelry, for an experiment. Ronnie took off one of her stockings and handed it to Seth. He placed the stocking inside one of the telepods. Then he used voice commands to start the program. A flash of white light appeared, and the stocking vanished. On the machine's screen, the words, "Teleportation successful" appeared. Ronnie looked disappointed. She thought it was just a giant microwave. She was glad she hadn't given him a Rolex, if she even had one. Seth just smiled. Then he explained that his research was about teleportation technology. It could send the stocking from one telepod to the other. Hearing this, Ronnie became instantly interested. She quickly pulled out her recorder, flipped the tape, and told Seth to keep talking. In fact, from the moment she had walked in, Ronnie had already been recording, but Seth didn't know that. The atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. Seth had never shared this research with anyone before. He only wanted to show off a little, not make it public. But Ronnie was a reporter, and this was a huge scoop. There was no way she would miss it. The next day, Ronnie handed the recording to her boss, Stathis. But Stathis just laughed. He said, "This is just a magic trick." Obviously, he thought Seth had fooled her. At that moment, Seth showed up in person. Stathis didn't take it seriously, teased a little, and walked away. Later, Seth asked Ronnie out for lunch. His main purpose was to persuade Ronnie not to publish the story. The technology was not perfect yet. It could only teleport non-living objects for now. He hoped Ronnie would wait, and promised that once it was fully successful, she would get the story first. Ronnie finally agreed. Ronnie's boss, Stathis, was actually her ex-boyfriend. They had broken up not long ago. Stathis still hoped to get back together, but clearly, Ronnie didn't feel the same way. Her attention was now mostly on Seth. Under Ronnie's constant documentation, Seth began the next stage of his research. First, he used a baboon for an experiment, but it ended in failure. When it went in, it was a baboon. When it came out, it was just a pile of flesh. Seth was devastated. He couldn't figure out why it had failed. After witnessing this tragedy, Ronnie comforted the devastated Seth. Their comfort soon developed into a romantic relationship. While they were being intimate, a small metal part scratched Seth's back. Later, Seth suddenly had the idea to run an experiment with a steak. He discovered that the steak, after teleportation, had the texture of synthetic meat. That was when Seth realized the teleportation process involved breaking something down and then reassembling it. It was now clear the problem lay in the reassembly stage. If he could rewrite the program, he might achieve a perfect copy. With that thought, Seth immediately threw himself into work. While he was busy, Ronnie went out shopping. But she never expected that after being rejected last time, Stathis had been secretly following her. He was furious and jealous that Ronnie was now with Seth. After Seth's adjustments, the live teleportation test was a partial success. The baboon that came out looked perfectly fine. The next step was to run a full checkup on it. If there was no problem, human trials could begin. Seth was excited and planned to order Chinese food to celebrate. But at that moment, Ronnie saw a magazine cover sent by Stathis. One glance and she understood. He was using Seth to threaten her. Ronnie didn't have time to explain. She refused Seth's celebratory dinner and went to confront Stathis. Stathis was blunt. He demanded that Ronnie never cut contact with him. If possible, he also wanted to keep their physical relationship. Ronnie called him disgusting, just like before. Meanwhile, a disaster struck on Seth's side. It partly happened because Ronnie had left without explaining. This made Seth extremely jealous. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. He drank one glass after another. Eventually he was drunk and decided to experiment on himself. By coincidence, a fly entered the telepod with Seth. He didn't notice and started the teleportation process. A few minutes later, Seth emerged from the other telepod seemingly unharmed. The next day after waking up, Ronnie returned. Seth felt a bit scared in hindsight. If something had gone wrong, the result would have been disastrous. But that fear was quickly replaced by excitement. Soon, Seth noticed strange changes in his body. He could catch flies with ease. His strength and agility had increased overnight. Over the next few days, more changes appeared. He craved sweets. He was full of energy. His mood was constantly high. His sexual potency increased dramatically. But Ronnie noticed something unusual. Hair was growing out of the wound on Seth's back. She got worried and cut one off to examine it. By then, Seth's personality had completely changed. He grabbed Ronnie and tried to push her into the telepod. According to him, teleportation had filtered him and unlocked his human potential. He wanted Ronnie to teleport as well, so they could be on the same level in stamina and strength. But Ronnie was terrified and refused. Her refusal made Seth furious. He told her, "Fine, I'll find someone else." Seth went to a bar and immediately spotted a woman named Tawny. Tawny had a boyfriend, Marky, who was arm wrestling with friends at the next table. Seth made him a bet, $100 if Marky won, but if Seth won, Tawny had to leave with him. Marky agreed. They began to arm wrestle. Seth used his superhuman strength and snapped Marky's arm, and just like that, Seth walked away with Tawny. Seth offered to spend the night together. Tawny agreed, saying she lived with her mom anyway. When they got to Seth's place, he eagerly carried Tawny upstairs. After an intimate moment, Seth's true purpose became clear. He was about to put Tawny into the telepod when Ronnie came back. Sensing the situation, Tawny wisely left. Ronnie came this time to remind Seth to go to the hospital. Remember the hair Ronnie had cut earlier? She had sent it for testing. The results showed it was not human hair at all, but the bristle of some kind of insect. Ronnie told him he was definitely sick and needed to get a proper checkup right away, but Seth clearly didn't believe her. He told Ronnie she was just jealous. "Do I look like someone who's sick?" he asked, then punched the doorframe several times. After Ronnie left, Seth began to examine himself closely. The hair wasn't the real problem. The real issue was that his fingernails had started to fall off and his fingers were oozing pus. That was when Seth finally realized how serious the problem was. He used the machine to scan and analyze his body. The analysis showed that he actually had fly DNA inside him. 4 weeks later, Ronnie received a call from Seth. He said he was in very bad shape and begged her to come see him. When Ronnie saw Seth, she was so shocked that she burst into tears. Seth's body had already changed dramatically. He had trouble eating, and one of his ears fell off right in front of her. The next day, Ronnie told Stathis about Seth's condition. At first, Stathis didn't really believe her. He told Ronnie to record Seth, then they could figure out a way to help her. By this stage, Seth was becoming more and more like a fly. He could walk on walls, and he ate exactly like a fly. Not long after, Ronnie came to Stathis in tears. Yes, Ronnie was pregnant with Seth's child. This raised a serious question. Was the baby conceived before Seth's mutation, or after it? Ronnie began thinking about having an abortion. That night, she had a horrifying dream in which she gave birth to a giant maggot, a nightmare that became one of the most unforgettable scenes in the story. By this point, Seth fully understood he was losing his humanity and came up with a last-ditch plan. If he teleported with another person, he might dilute the insect DNA. He begged and threatened Ronnie to stay, torn between his human emotions and insect instincts. However, Ronnie went ahead with the abortion procedure, and Stathis escorted her to the clinic. From outside, Seth watched in anger. Seth crashed through the clinic window, kidnapped Ronnie, and took her back to his lab. When Stathis learned Ronnie had been abducted, he arrived at the lab with a shotgun to confront Seth. Seth spewed corrosive vomit at him, melting his hand and foot and leaving him in unbearable pain. Seth was about to kill Stathis, but Ronnie stepped in just in time, forcing him to spare Stavris's life. Seth's final goal was horrifying. He planned to fuse himself, Ronnie, and her unborn baby together in order to dilute the insect DNA. When Ronnie realized what he intended, she was terrified. During their struggle, Ronnie accidentally tore off Seth's jaw. At that moment, Seth's human skin completely peeled away, and a full humanoid fly emerged. Seth threw Ronnie into one of the telepods. He then entered the other one himself. The teleportation sequence began. At the critical moment, Stathis shot the cables connecting Ronnie's pod, cutting the power and allowing her to escape. Seth tried to get out of his own pod, but the malfunction fused him with part of the machine, turning him into a creature that was part man, part insect, and part machine. Horribly mangled, he crawled toward Ronnie, silently guiding the gun barrel to his own head, signaling her to end his life. With tears in her eyes, Ronnie pulled the trigger, releasing him from his suffering.